we're here with Thea.
Thea.
Thea is a German, grew up in Germany and has a story of life before World War II and then during World War II. So you were born, roughly speaking, about 2 years before Hitler gains power.
Yes.
What, being so young, I mean, the war started, you were, 8 years old or so. Do you have any memories of leading up to the war? What memories do you have of before the war? Do you have anything?
I have memories of what my mom used to say. I was the youngest, okay, out of 4. We were all 6 years apart. So I had 2 older brothers and my sister, and I was the youngest. And I remember my second younger brother, he was very much for Hitler. Hitler understood to conquer the youth, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We would have all these meetings, Hitler youth. The boys extra and the girls extra. We would have uniforms. We would learn about, the ideas of Hitler. And we sang songs. Today we have Germany. Tomorrow we gonna have the whole world. We're gonna conquer the whole world.
Do you remember singing songs like that?
Yes.
Okay, so your family was pretty positive and happy with Hitler gaining power and having control in Germany.
Yes.
So when the war started in 1939 against Poland, it was not so much anxiety, but it was a time of celebration.
Yes and no. My mom would say, I had 2 older brothers. They were in the war. I was the youngest, okay? And we were all 6 years apart. So my 2 older brothers, they were like 12 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there was the prospect of having the world, conquering, winning, but also the anxiety of it is a war and people are going to be killed in that
Yes,
war.
yes.
You have 2 older brothers in the war. What happened to them during the war?
Well, one came back. He wasn't, but this was my younger brother who was, I have to be out there. He was in the infantry. Infantry is right in front.
Right.
Closest combat. And he got killed.
Okay.
He was very pro-Hitler. Very pro-Hitler.
And that you said you were the youngest of the family, right?
Yeah.
So one of your older brothers was killed fighting
Yes.
in infantry. Do you know whereabouts?
Yeah. Starya was in Russia.
Okay, that's the okay. And the second one, your other brother was in the war.
He was more.
He was a Funke.
Yeah, he was.
Morse code. He
yeah,
was
Morse
in
code
communication.
and all of
Okay.
that.
Behind the lines.
Communication.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And talk about that a little bit of how you dealt with the death
Okay.
at 10 years old. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was very, very hard. He was very athletic. He would ride the bike. He would take me in the back of the seat, and we go like crazy. When you're a kid, that is fun. I remember we lived in a little village, and there was a river in back of our house. In fact, there was the river right away. And so we had to cross these bridges, and they weren't wider than that.
On your bicycle.
Yes, and I looked down, oh, and that was way deep down, and I thought, oh my gosh.
I better hang on.
Yeah. And we went like so fast, you know.
Talk about him getting that news, and what you did. How did you deal with your grief?
Oh, when my brother died in the war, that was very hard. Broke my heart. Yeah, it took a long time.
And you walked to school.
Yes, I would not walk with anybody. I just be on my own, and I look up to heaven because I know, I believe that God is in control, and when you die, you go to heaven.
As the war was coming to a close, how did that impact you?
Well, yeah, we had to flee our home. We had to leave. We had a nice home in Silesia.
Was it an immediate, one day you're playing outside, life is okay, and then the next day you got to get out of this house now, and you don't have time to pick your stuff up, and you just got to go? What was that fleeing? What did the fleeing look like?
Yeah, we had to leave everything behind.
So it was immediate. You didn't have much preparation and planning.
Yeah, it was pretty chaotic.
Mm-hmm. Talk about your dad's pickup truck and how he said everybody can take one thing along.
Oh yeah, yeah. My dad said to whatever we liked the most, we can take along. But then when it came down to, we also had to take. We had people renting from us. We owned our own home. We had a beautiful home.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to take these people along. They didn't have transportation. My parents had a business and they had a truck,
Pickup truck.
a pickup truck, a Chevrolet even.
Mm-hmm.
But they took it from us. The German army, so to speak, took it from us. They said Hitler needs the truck to win the war.
Mm-hmm.
But the war was already lost.
Mm-hmm.
And they pulled you off the truck.
They pulled us off the track and just, we were crying.
Now, was that the SS or the Army that did that?
Yeah, more the SS.
More the SS?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were all crying, and they literally pulled us off and unloaded everything, and then sent somebody, and then they loaded all our stuff in there, and then they took us to the next village, and in the next village we had to get another, somebody to take it from there to another, to next villages or so.
So you're just relying on other people to get
Well,
and
yeah.
helping you.
Well, we had, they took our truck that time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about as you were fleeing, it was bitter cold. I mean,
It was bitter cold.
right.
February
And what you
10th.
saw as you were
19.
walking, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
As you were walking, the truck was already gone, and you were walking. And what were you seeing in the road, and what kind of people were you seeing?
What I was seeing, there was a lot of stuff in the ditches. People couldn't take it.
What else did you see in the ditches?
Even frozen babies. Sad to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that was simply because they didn't have the means and ability to take care of the babies, or they just didn't have,
They froze to death. It was
'Cause, yeah.
survival.
so they didn't have enough
Yeah.
resources, yeah.
Right. They were fleeing for their lives, and then, maybe the mother didn't have any milk, or old people were in the ditches, the elderly
Yeah.
that couldn't walk.
Old people, yeah. Children, babies, and old
Well,
people.
what did you know about the Soviet Union? You had a choice. I mean, you could have stayed in your house, kept your house warm, and stayed in your house. People chose to flee so much that they were dying from the cold, trying to get out. Do you remember them saying things about the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union was coming in? What do you remember about the Soviet Union and the Russian troops? Were you kind of like, why don't we just stay? What's the big deal?
No, we were afraid of them.
Why were you afraid of them? What did you hear about them?
Well, we did not trust them.
Okay.
You knew that you had a better chance of living, fleeing, than staying home. They would have just shot you. That they did. Talk
Right.
about
But then,
gleaning and starving and not getting a piece of bread for
Yeah.
now
months.
this is speaking of your story, right?
Yes.
Okay, so talk about your fleeing of the Soviets. What was that like?
It was horrible. I jumped out of the window. We had an apartment. My parents rented in an apartment upstairs. And, well, God was I can see that when I look back that God protected us. That I'm still living to tell this story. Because we were living upstairs, we had an apartment upstairs, and then you could jump out a window, and there were these like for the animals, where they would keep the animals. But you had to jump down about that much. You see here?
Can you do it that way?
Just say 4
Yeah.
feet or 5 feet.
Like that, okay? You had to jump that much. And then you were on the roof of the,
Of the stable, I would
yeah.
guess.
But that was pretty high. I would say that was like up on the ceiling here.
Mhm.
You had
So
to
10
jump
feet, 10 feet.
for that.
Mhm. So why did you have to jump?
Because the Russians came and they just literally, if the door was locked, they kicked in the door.
Mhm.
And they said that you had to hide. I was a little girl. I knew I had to hide. I was alone, but my mother was out there somewhere, and I remember jumping out of the window, and then she came, and we literally fell in each other's arms.
And that was unplanned. She
Yeah.
didn't see you
No.
doing that. Now, and you hid there,
Yeah.
and the Soviet Union was in the house searching the home.
Yes. Yeah.
And this was in 1945?
Yes, and besides, already they came before, and they did not see us. And I not so long ago, I thought back on that. My sister and I were hiding up there. I mean, it was God. I'm telling you, God protected us. They must have seen us, but God didn't let them see
What
us.
would they have done if they would have seen you?
We don't know. They could have raped us.
Mm-hmm.
We
Did that
didn't
ha-
know.
did
We weren't aufgeklärt, if you understand what
They
I mean.
weren't mature, they weren't developed or.
We physically. I
Right,
didn't
you
know.
weren't mature.
Well,
what-
you were 14 years old about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but-
31 to
Right.
45, yeah.
Yeah.
13.
13.
You were 13.
Yeah, but still I did not know.
They're very innocent, you know.
Yes, I wasn't.
And you heard stories of the Soviet Union doing things like that? Doing things, bad things to women, things like that? That was pretty
No,
common?
I didn't know about that.
Until
Okay.
later. I think you would talk
Yeah.
about it later
Yeah.
with your mom.
So that stuff comes out.
Right. But they knew that to be afraid and to hide.
Right.
They did know that instinctively.
And this is in Czechoslovakia.
This is, yeah, they got far enough away from Germany and they thought, oh, 3 weeks, we'll go back home.
Mhm.
We'll just hang here for 3 weeks. We'll find a room or a house to rent so that we're out of the cold. And we'll be here 3 weeks and then we'll go back to our home.
And you're thinking the Soviet Union's going to leave Germany in 3 weeks? Okay.
They're very optimistic.
Yeah.
They didn't know
Well-
what was happening. Yeah.
And so the story goes, the Soviet Union's coming, you're loading things up on your truck, your car, the SS ends up taking that, and you got to find people to get you to Czechoslovakia and drive you around and get to place to place to place.
The train. You talked about being in a train and it was so packed with people.
Oh yeah, the train.
Was that in the summertime?
Yeah, that was in the summertime.
Where were you trying to go?
Yeah, where were we trying to go? I don't know. We were trying to go away from Steinsdorfer Bahnhof. And there was, you won't believe it, the trains, the people were on top of the roofs. On the,
Of the train.
yeah, and that wasn't the where the persons are, where the freight, there was freight trains. And then we were in a freight train like that. And then the people were on top of it and the roof broke down
Collapsed.
right above our heads, actually.
And these are people on trains trying to get away from...
Yeah, yes.
Is this in East Germany?
Right.
Yes.
So you're going on trains, cars, all over the place to just get out of there.
Yes.
Using all methods.
And talk about why wasn't there any food? You talked about not having any food and going into the fields in the summer and in the spring and getting out potatoes that were supposed to be seed potatoes, and you didn't see bread for months.
We didn't see bread for months. Yeah. That I'm living to tell you this story is a miracle.
Because you were literally starving.
Yeah.
Your teeth broke off.
That, yes.
And this is obviously after the war. This is when you're in Czechoslovakia.
Mhm.
You had... What things were you eating? You didn't, I mean, in Europe at that time, the basic food was bread.
Yeah.
You didn't see any of that?
Well, you had to stand in line, and then sometimes the bread was gone, and then they were hitting each other, fighting for it, you know. Yeah.
Who was giving out the bread? The Czechoslovakian government?
You know, probably.
Do you remember that Americans would drop packages from the sky?
No.
No?
No.
Thought we had talked about that one time.
Now, you lived in West Germany in the 50s? During the Cold War, when Germany was split up? What do you? What can you say anything about what it was like living in Germany, a divided Germany? What was it like living in Germany during the Cold War? Is there?
It's hard. I was a child.
Okay.
Well, talk about getting your driver's license. You got your
I was
driver's
too
license.
old. I was too young.
Well, you got your driver's license, and talk about you had to drive in Strasbourg or in Kiel.
Oh yeah, when I had to drive in Kiel. Half of the street was barbed wire. I had to make my driver's license, and I made it
Why was half the street barbed wire?
because it was half. It belonged half to France
Oh, okay.
and half to Germany.
Okay.
It's Alsace.
Here.
When you lived in Milwaukee in those regions, did you ever get any anti-German, or was everyone like, I mean, we did fight a war with Germany. Did you feel your ethnicity being? Did you feel any negative? Did you have any
No.
negative comments or anything?
No, I wouldn't
Okay.
say so.
Well, then your husband went into the Navy. That was very hard. He was a German going into the
Mhm.
American
Oh
Navy.
yeah, but he had to go into the Navy. Yeah.
And he was not a German. He was not an American citizen at that point.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than be drafted into the army, he enlisted into
Yeah,
the Navy.
he enlisted in the Navy.
And this was what,
Was that the Korean War?
Uh,
Early
I believe
50s?
so. It was 58,
Okay.
57, right? 57,
Let's
58.
see, when did we come over here?
You came over in 55.
55, that's right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In 1955 you came. I think in January, February was the winter time.
Yeah, I think it was in the winter time.
1989, do you know what happened in that year?
No.
The Berlin,
Berlin Wall fell.
right.
Oh.
Were you running around the streets screaming, launching fireworks? Were you so much detached to Germany that you're just happy, or was that a more special moment for you than you feel like other Americans felt?
I guess I wasn't that attached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although you did see the wall, the Berlin Wall up.
I did, yeah.
And then we have seen the Berlin Wall down
Mhm.
as well. We were in Berlin not too long ago
Yeah.
and saw a unified Berlin.
Okay. Is there any other stories we can wrap it up
No,
to,
sorry.
please? It's okay.
Choppy.
Yeah. We'll,
You'll have to kind of,
Well, when you're young, you think it's more an adventure, I would say.
what is an adventure? Are you referring to war?
No, coming
Just life.
Yeah, coming to America.
Okay.
You know.
you're optimistic.
Yeah.
You wanted to start a new life.
Yes, you are optimistic, that's right.
Did you keep touch with anyone in Germany once you were in America? Did you still keep?
Oh, sure, yeah, sure.
So in 2000. All right. Well,
Alrighty.
thanks for talking. I do appreciate it. Thank you.